In this video, I'm going to show you some examples where I have mixed up for solving quadratics, mixed up specifically factoring, our square root method, or the quadratic formula. And so I want to talk to you about what is the best method to solve and how do you approach the problem and know how to solve. So the first thing I always check for first, number one, so I did in the previous video just kind of like a graphic organizer on organizing my thoughts. I'm going to refer to that in this video. First start with, is your equation easily factorable? And here it is easily to factor, because I can tell right away two numbers that multiply to make 10 and add to make 11. That's a 10 and a 1 if both of them are positive. So I can easily set each factor equal to 0 and solve. Here, if I subtract 10 to this side, my answer is negative 10. And then if I have x plus 1 equals to 0 and I subtract 1 on both sides, I get negative 1. Now when I'm looking at my next example, can I think of two numbers that multiply to make 4 and add to make 1? Well, I just can't. 2 and 2, I don't know how it's going to make a 1, and 4 and 1 aren't going to make a 2. So because my linear term's not missing, I have all of these terms, I'm going to use quadratic formula. So x equals, and here's the formula up here, a here, let's identify here, a equals 1, b equals 1, and c equals negative 4. So x equals opposite of 1, so negative 1, plus and minus the square root of b squared. 1 times 1, and then minus 4 times 1 times c here, negative 4. All of that gets divided by double my a term, or double 1. So I have negative 1 plus and minus. Now on my calculator, I'm going to show you how to type this in. 1 minus, make sure you use parentheses, 4 times a of 1 times c of negative 4, and you'll get what goes under that radical. And then now I'm going to simplify. 2 times 1 is 2. Get the square root of 17, the decimal for that next. That's 4.12. And now we're going to use our calculator, and we're going to make sure that we add the top and then divide by 2, subtract the top and get by 2, divide by 2. So negative 1 plus 4.2, 12. Hit enter and then divide by 2, you get 1.56. And now I'm going to take negative 1, subtract 4.12, and then divide by 2, and I got negative 2.56. So those are my two solutions here. Now for example 3, I notice that I have my linear term missing. So I can use the square root formula. If I add 7 to the other side, my x squared is alone, and I can easily square root both sides of my function. A square root and a square undo each other, and don't forget, when you apply that square root symbol, you need to apply plus and minus. 13 and 7 adds to make 20, and so I'm going to write down the square root of 20 as a decimal. It is 4.47. So that's my answer here. And now I'm going to move on. Notice how this is already factored. So factoring would be the method of choice because you just need to set them equal to 0 and now solve. So add 3 here, divide by 5, and I get 3/5. There's one of them. Subtract 5 for the next factor, and divide by 2. So there's my two answers here. Now for the next one, I don't really know what to do yet because I don't have my standard form. And standard form is, I'll write that in bright pink, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we want to have it equal to 0. I don't have this equal to 0, so I should not be factoring yet. Two numbers that multiply to make 6, add to make 2. 6 and 1 isn't going to make 2, and 3 and 2 isn't going to make 2. I'm just going to jump right to quadratic formula because I can't think of those numbers right away. It's not easy to factor. So I'm going to take x equals, a here is 1, b is negative 2, c is negative 6. Opposite of negative 2 is 2, plus minus square root of b squared. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And 4 times my a of 1 times my c of negative 6 is going to go under that radical all over 2 times my a, which is 1. Okay, so here we go. With my calculator, I'm going to show you how to type in this underneath the radical here. You want to type 4 minus, now in parentheses, 4 times 1 times negative 6. This means a 28 is going under my radical, and I'm going to divide by 2. I'm going to get the decimal then for the square root of that 28 and replace it with 5.29. Okay, so I'm going to have two answers. One when I add 5.29 and one when I subtract 5.29. So here we go. 2 plus 5.29. Hit enter and then divide by 2. I get 3.6. I'm going to round that up to 5. And then I also get 2 minus, because I got to do the subtract, 5.29. Hit enter before you divide by 2, and you get negative 1.65. If I round that 4 up because that 5 is high, that 4 turns into a 5. All right, last one. I see a quantity squared, and so to get rid of a quantity, meaning a group squared, we're going to use square root method. I'm going to subtract my 7 first. 17 minus 7 is going to get me 10. And now to get rid of this half, I'm going to undo it by multiplying by the reciprocal, which is going to be 2. Now to get rid of my square, I square root both sides. Square and a square root undo each other, but when you apply the square root, don't forget for your answer side, you got to have plus and minus. So I'm going to get the decimal for the square root of 20, and I get positive and negative 4.47. So I'm going to add 6 to 4.47, and then negative 4.47 I'm going to add 6 to. So this is going to be 10.47. Negative 4.47 plus 6 is 1.53.